Good evening to one and all present here. Thanks a lot, sir, for coming here, Acharya Prashant, sir. Today we feel really blessed to have you to address us Enactus SLCE students. You have been really kind enough to accept our invitation, so we really thank you for that. Although, sir, you don't need an introduction, but because this is a podcast which will be published, that means that we have to share some things about you. Acharya Prashant, sir, is an acclaimed Vedanta executive to a national bestseller and also a national best-selling author for over 100 books. He's a powerful force of socio-spiritual transformation who has been helping people around the world with his knowledge and expertise. Today, millions of people are inspired by Acharya Prashant sir. He continues to share his wisdom to masses through various offline and online channels. Sir, it's an honor to welcome you to address us students of Enactus Shamlal College Evening. Thank you.
Welcome all of you.
Good afternoon, sir. Sir, my question is related to midlife crisis. Midlife crisis is a rising trend in society, and unfortunately, students within the age bracket of 20 to 30 are getting midlife crisis. So, why they are getting this, and how to deal with this?
See, what you call as a midlife crisis, irrespective of the age when it hits you, is basically a blow of the truth. So, as a college student, as a young man or a woman, you have been taught to have certain dreams. You have been conditioned to have certain dreams. And you will not invest yourself in those dreams unless it is simultaneously assured to you that the dreams will get you happiness and fulfillment, right? Will you buy something without an assurance that the thing will fetch you happiness, etc.? You essentially buy a promise of fulfillment and happiness, irrespective of what you buy, right? Otherwise, you will not invest yourself in the thing or the idea or the dream or the person or the job or the ideology or the lifestyle. All these are things, all this is stuff that we are made to buy into, right? And we are convinced that if we buy into these things, then the result will be satisfactory. Obviously, the sellers of these dreams and ideologies and lifestyles will not want you to question these things, because it becomes difficult to sell something spurious if the customer is too investigative, right? No salesman enjoys a very inquisitive customer. So, these are not presented to us as things or options. These are presented to us as inevitable truths. You have to have a certain kind of lifestyle. As a young person, life is more or less scripted for you, and the script is inviolable. It's not optional. It is the truth. See, only the truth is inviolable. Everything else is simply optional. And if something is presented to you as inexorable, something you just cannot avoid, then it is being presented to you as the truth, right? Irrespective of whether the presenters use that word or not. Right? So, as gullible young persons, you start believing in the script. You start thinking that obviously this alone is life. What else? What else? You start using words like commonsensical, obviously. No? So someone asks you, what are you going to do after college? And a lot of you will say, obviously, I'll get into a job. Obviously. And we have been conditioned to such an extent that it does not remain even faintly visible that there is nothing obvious or inviolable or final in this. That this must be a matter of conscious choice. You have to think over it. Visualize a day in your life at the age of 30. Visualize. Visualize a typical day in your life at the age of 30. And you'd be amazed if I ask you to pen down your visualization. Let me just hand over a piece of paper to each of you and ask you to jot down whatever has sprung in your mind. You'll be amazed the kind of similarities you will find in your descriptions. 70 to 80% overlap. How is that possible? The elements of your typical day at the age of 30 would include a job or a business, a husband or a wife, a kid or couple of them, a house, a vehicle of your choice. Some of you would be thinking of a foreign country. Right? Right? Now, who gave these ideas to you? Don't tell me it's commonsensical. I don't have that sense. So, who gave those ideas to you? How does it become like a law of nature that these things will but naturally happen? How did this get into your mind and strike such deep roots? And all of this is very intricately related to the thing called midlife crisis. We are not needlessly going into it. How did this enter your mind? Please tell me. But when it enters your mind and once it takes a seat there, the tragedy is that it no more remains social, it becomes personal. You do not say, my dream is a social one. What do you say? It's my personal goal. This is what I personally love. The thing is, even the entity you call as the person is just a social construct. There is hardly any individuality in our existence. We are biological and social beings. The hardware comes from biology, and the software comes from society, education, influences, and such things. So there is nothing of our own really in our existence, our life, our mind, our thoughts, our emotions, our opinions. Hmm? So you have bought into all those dreams. And there is hardly any variety in those dreams. That's what used to bore me about them when I was your age. I mean, come on. Maybe I'll subscribe to what you're trying to sell me, but at least show me some options. Like a good customer. I want to feel empowered. I want to feel I have choice. So I would say, come on, show me some choice. There would be not much choice even for namesake. Job, money, wife, kids. Please, something else. Add to the list or remove something from the list. So there would be some very fickle and unimportant kind of additions or deletions. The core would remain the same. And the core remains the same for everybody. It has remained the same, much the same for you people also. And that's what explains the midlife crisis. The stuff that you bought into at the age of 20 or 25 starts showing up as fake, useless, spurious by the age of 35 or 40. And that's what you call as a midlife crisis. But by then it is just too late. You have made irreversible decisions. And deep investments you just cannot now get out of. That's what is midlife crisis. Are you getting it? So that midlife crisis that you experience at the age of 35 or 40 or 45 is actually something that gets initiated decades earlier. It got initiated when you entered class 11th and you didn't know whether to go for commerce or science or medicine or arts or whatever. And then somebody told you, you pick up this particular stream and you will be happy. And you just didn't know anything and you enrolled into a particular stream. That's when the whole thing began. And then it kept snowballing. As you kept moving on in life, it just kept getting bigger and bigger, like a balloon inflating in size. But the balloon cannot keep gaining volume infinitely. A time comes, a day comes when it just bursts. That's what we call as midlife crisis. All hot air is what the life of a youngster is about. Just hot air. Gas, a lot of gas. And gas can't survive for too long. Ever seen an everlasting balloon? But then that's what we are all busy blowing up. It bursts. And when it bursts, there is a sudden crash. You lose energy, you lose motivation, you just don't know what to do with life. All you're left with is a lot of frustration and repentance. And you get terribly irritable. And you start aging very rapidly. That's why when you hit 60, something called senility strikes you. Have you heard the word senile? What does that mean? Senile. What does that mean?
Old age.
Yeah, but what does that denote psychologically? If you say someone's gone senile, what does that mean? Huh? Gone kaput. Gone kind of insane. That's senility. And that's supposed to hit you when you hit 60. senility. In Hindi you call it Sathiyana. You see how it's related to Sat, Sathiyana. Now what's it about 60 that your mind totally goes bonkers? Nothing but a realization of a life all failed. A failed life. It need not begin at 60. It used to be at 60, then it started happening at 35, 40. Now the questioner says it is happening at 20. Now why is it happening so early? And it's a good thing, right? If you are failing, it's a great thing to realize early that you are failing, so that you have the opportunity to make some amends. If you realize at the age of 60 or 80 that you have lived a failed life, you don't even have the time to make corrections. Are we together? Now, how is it that the so-called midlife crisis is striking you much earlier than before? It is because the quantum of dreams that you are carrying today is much bigger than before, and it's coming to you much earlier. So people used to get into relationships at the age of 25, 30 something. Today all that begins in class 5. Right? That which you call as the Nibba Nibbi phenomena. So when at the age of 10 you are already into it, then at the age of 20 or 25, you know that you have entered midlife crisis. Because the life of desire had begun just too soon. The life of consumption had begun just too soon. You want everything early, right? Today they say you must have a Merc at 25. Only then life is successful. People used to buy their first Maruti 800 after retirement. So a lot of people are getting a lot of things way too early. And therefore, the subsequent disappointment and disillusionment also comes, earlier. So the kind of depression people used to experience at 40 is now being experienced at 25. Because the experiences that they would accumulate till 40 are now being had in a much shorter time span. They would take 40 years to have those kind of experiences that you guys are having within a short span of 10-15 years now. You travel much more, you consume much more. The internet has widened the scope of your experiences much more. You can get into serial relationships, which was not happening earlier. So in some sense, you have the opportunity to be wizened much earlier. Have you seen those black and white movies of 50s and 60s? What would be the typical age of the hero? Oh, I thought 50s. Think of Ashok Kumar. Think of Raj Kapoor. Probably they began in their 30s. But they always looked quite grayed down. No? Yeah, impressive because old. And think of the kind of screen heroes that you have today. Forget the oldies who are just statues that tradition has installed, and those statues won't fall anytime soon. Otherwise, think of the new entrants the new faces that you see on the screen, they all look pretty young. Not just young, rather juvenile, even immature. So the onset of consumption, the onset of desire is happening much earlier. Much earlier. It's a very strange thing, very, very strange thing. It happened just yesterday here in Bodhstal. So, where Rohitji is here. So, we got 3 new rabbit friends yesterday. All kids, small. So, they've just arrived here yesterday. And they are just a few months of age. So rabbits need to be neutered. They need to be neutered after they reach 6 or 7 months of age, because that's when they start showing adult behavior and start mating. Before that, they don't need to be neutered. But the doctor, the vet, he said something quite unusual, very interesting. He said, no. You can't wait for 6-7 months nowadays. Rabbits start displaying adult behavior at 3 months of age. So he asked him, but why? He said, human proximity. Humans have grown so sexual that even the animals who live in their proximity start showing sexual behavior at an earlier age. Now, I don't really fully believe this thesis that the vet has proposed. But even if there is a grain of truth in it, it's a very important pointer as to where we are headed and where we stand. You know that the average age of onset of puberty in human kids, it has decreased to like 10 years or something. That which used to show up at 13 or 14 is now emerging at 10 or 11. You know how girls are beginning to have their periods way earlier than what used to happen a few decades before. You getting? Now, from where is that coming? All that is coming from an environment that is continuously provoking you, titillating you, instigating desire in you. So a lot of consumption, desires, this, that. And that which will begin earlier will also crash earlier. That crash is what you call as a midlife crisis. My opinion, it's not necessarily bad. If at the age of 25 itself, you can be disillusioned from the usual script, the usual pattern, the usual conditioning, then probably something new, fresh can open up for you. So, good. It was that kind of a crash that resulted in the phenomena that we today know of as Gautam Buddha and Vardhaman Mahavir. In some way, it was midlife crisis that struck them. They had everything. And they were brought up on a huge dose of consumption, all kinds of consumption. Riches, prestige, knowledge, women, whatever they wanted had been made available to them. In fact, much more than they could ever want had been forcibly made available to them. Forcibly, so that they do not become renunciates. That's how the story goes. At least with respect to the Buddha. His father was afraid that this chap has other plans. He will not stay put in the palace, and he'll probably take some other path. So he tried to immerse Buddha into all kinds of material luxuries. And that only hastened the process of Buddha's disillusionment. He said, all that could be had, that could be consumed or enjoyed or experienced, I've already had, and it has failed on me. I still feel wretched and hollow within. So why continue this kind of life? Obviously, fulfillment lies elsewhere. So let me go out and try. So I wish all of you get an early crisis. It's better to be painfully struck with reality than to live in a fool's paradise all life long. Though that's what the ego wants. The ego says, don't show me the mirror, don't tell me the truth. Let me live in my fanciful dreams my entire life. Wish that could be true. What would you rather have? A painful blow of the truth? Or cozy, woolly, sweet dreams? Such a loud declaration, an utter roar of the truth we just heard, no? Now that explains the crisis. We are born to be deceived. Our natural composition is such that we want to remain stupid. Not anybody's fault. That's how we are born. That's how everybody is born. We have a strong tendency to favor self-illusion. Even if truth stares us in the face, we will refuse it. Unfortunately, that cannot continue for too long. When facts and imaginations collide, you know what gets shattered. Nobody can shatter facts. Dreams crash. But your entire culture and all your teachers and well-wishers, they want you to chase your dreams, don't they? And the whole motivation industry. Come on, chase your dreams. I support them. I say chase your dreams even more wholeheartedly, so that you can very soon realize that your dreams are nonsensical. In fact, those who are very sincere towards their dreams will be the first one to reject their dreams, to evolve beyond their dreams, because they have been sincere in pursuing their dreams. The worst condition is of those who maintain dreams yet never pursue them wholeheartedly. So that they remain in some kind of perpetual hope. So there is a dream. Yeah, one day the dream will come true and then I will be happy. So if you have some dream, and as young people obviously will be having dreams, I say go after it with all that you have. Go after it so that you can see its futility. Otherwise, all that I'm saying from this position right now will not appear true or even tasteful to you. Materialize at least a few of your dreams so that you can see their falseness, so that you can see that there is just nothing in that. Obviously, you are far luckier if you can see the futility of these so-called dreams. Mind you, remember how we began. We said your dreams are not your dreams. They have been drilled into you by the society. And anyway, now that you have started calling them your own, lucky are the few who can spontaneously, just by observation and their insight, realize that the dream business is all hollow and futile. Realize that there is nothing individualistic about our dreams and goals and targets. Those are the lucky few. Most of you will need some kind of a crash to regain your senses. Otherwise, we remain in some kind of intoxicated state, where the dream business is everything and everybody has the same dream. Gather a crowd of 100. Ask them, can you list 5 dreams that you have? And you find that all 100 have at least 3 shared dreams. Will that happen or not? And still each of them is calling those dreams as, oh, this is my personal dream. How can it be personal if you share it with so many people? Obviously, it is neither yours nor his nor her. It is coming from some other source, and that some other source has managed to embed the same dream in each of you. You don't see that. You start calling your ambitions, your desires, your targets as your own. This is not the kind of happy beginning you would have probably wanted to the discussion. But then the fault is all yours. You come here, that's the first fault. Then you begin with such a question. That's another thing just upon you. I have nothing to do with it. I'll simply respond to what you put in front of me. Mostly it will not appear very delicious. Pardon me for that. Yes.
What I think one of the major reason for midlife crisis is larger than life image that movies and OTT platforms portray. So these movies are manipulating the kids and more importantly manipulating the reality, and youngsters are also relying on them. So why did this happen, and how to deal with this situation?
See, you buy into an entire book. You cannot now pick and choose among the chapters of the book. How is it possible that you continue to believe in chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, 4, 5, 6, and then you say chapter 8 and 9, I will not believe, I'll not accept, and I'll not implement in my life? That's not possible. Where do movies come from? Where do movies come from? All this movie business is very deeply related to the kind of lives that you live. You cannot continue to have the lives that you have and yet avoid movies. See, that's a very lucrative argument that many of us internally cultivate. We say, no, everything is okay about our life. It's the movies that are spoiling the culture. The question is, where are the movies coming from? They are coming from the same ecosystem that is breeding you. It's impossible to have the life that you have and not have the movies that you have. Your life is boring because it lacks authenticity. Therefore, you need movies that involve thrill, adventure, sex, violence, and juicy songs and all those things. Had your lives been different, would you have required movies like that? And as long as your lives are what they are, you will continue to need those movies. But we like to put all the blame on the movies. We say, oh, no, life is okay. Movies are spoiling it. But sir, the movies do not drop from the heavens. The movies are a product of the society that we are. Otherwise, the movies would have flopped. Who patronizes those movies? Who needs those movies? Who pays for those movies? We do, right? We are not dragged to the halls. We go there on our own and we book the tickets. And we sometimes buy very expensive tickets because the regular ones are not available. And even the popcorn basket or tub would cost sometimes 500 or 1,000 rupees. And you still go for it. Then why blame the movies? We are dying to watch those movies, are we not? And why are we dying to watch those movies? Because that's the way our life is. And why is our life the way it is? Because that's the script. That's what our culture has told us, that's what our education has told us, our upbringing has told us, that this is the kind of life that you have to live. And that kind of life necessitates movies and is also reflected in movies. Are you getting it? And that's the reason why the brand and genre of movies that you have in India is very different from what you have in Iran or what you have in Korea or what you have in the US. Just by the looks of it, you can spot an Indian movie. Because that movie is springing from the Indian life. So movies will continue to remain the way they are as long as life in India continues to remain the way. And where is the Indian life coming from? Thoughtless conditioning. You have to do this because it is supposed to be done this way. So that's where life is coming from, and that's also where movies are coming from. And the more our life changes, the more our movies too will change. Today, if someone makes a really path-breaking movie, what do you think happens to it? It bombs in a big way. The producer, the financier, they'll be bankrupt on the streets. Because the Indian life is not yet ready to accept something path-breaking. We want to live the way the script has told us to live. And we take the script as respectable, inviolable, and all that.